wind howled through the dense forest, carrying with it an unsettling chill that seemed to seep into the bones of the weary travelers. A full moon cast an eerie glow over the landscape, casting long shadows that danced among the trees like specters in the night. Several friends, their faces etched with exhaustion and apprehension, trudged along a narrow, winding path. It was meant to be a weekend escape, a chance to disconnect from the hustle and bustle of city life and immerse themselves in the tranquility of nature. But as the hours wore on, their excitement had turned to uncertainty, and the dense forest seemed to close in around them, swallowing their sense of direction. Among the group was Emily, a spirited young woman with a penchant for adventure. Mark, a tall and lanky man whose logical mind often clashed with Emily's spontaneity. Sarah, a bookish introvert who preferred the company of her novels to that of people. And David, a joker and the self-proclaimed expert on all things outdoors. "We should have reached the cabin by now," Mark muttered, his voice barely audible above the rustling leaves and distant hoots of owls. "Maybe we took a wrong turn somewhere," Emily suggested, squinting at the dimly lit map clutched in her hand. David let out a boisterous laugh. "Come on, guys. Lost in the woods? This is just the start of a great adventure." Sarah rolled her eyes, her anxiety growing with each passing moment. "Adventure or not, I just want to find shelter before it gets too dark." As if in response to her words, the forest seemed to grow darker, the trees thicker, and the path more treacherous. And then, just as despair threatened to take hold, a faint light appeared through the trees. The friends stumbled upon a clearing, and there it stood, a decaying, weather-worn farmhouse. Its wooden walls were slathered with peeling paint, and the windows stared out like vacant eyes. The air around the farmhouse seemed to hang heavy with an unspoken history, a history that had etched itself into the very essence of the place. "Looks like we've got our shelter," Emily said, her voice a mixture of relief and unease. The group approached the farmhouse cautiously, their footsteps muffled by the overgrown grass beneath their feet. Mark reached for the rusty doorknob and pushed the creaking door open, revealing a dimly lit interior. The musty scent of aged wood and dust filled the air, and the floorboards groaned underfoot. "Anyone home?" David called out, his voice echoing through the empty space. A silence followed, broken only by the distant hooting of an owl. The friends exchanged glances, uncertainty dancing in their eyes. "I say we stay here for the night," Mark finally spoke, his logical side winning out over his apprehension. "It's better than wandering around in the dark." With a unanimous nod, the friends set about making the farmhouse as habitable as possible. They lit a few candles, their warm glow casting flickering shadows that seemed to come alive on the walls. A sense of temporary security settled over the group, and as they huddled together on the worn-out furniture, they began to let their guard down. As the night wore on, their conversation turned from their predicament to casual topics, their lives, their dreams, their fears. But even in the midst of their laughter and camaraderie, an unspoken tension lingered, an awareness that they were not alone in the farmhouse. Outside, the wind intensified, causing the windows to rattle in their frames. Emily's gaze flickered toward the windows, and for a split second, she thought she saw a fleeting shadow pass by. She dismissed it as a trick of the light, but a shiver ran down her spine nonetheless. "We should get some sleep," Sarah suggested, stifling a yawn. "We'll figure out our way back in the morning." Reluctantly, the friends settled in various corners of the farmhouse, their makeshift beds offering little comfort. As the minutes turned into hours, the wind's mournful howl seemed to grow louder, weaving its way into their dreams and stirring the depths of their subconscious. Unbeknownst to them, the farmhouse held secrets far more sinister than they could ever imagine. Its walls whispered of tragedies and horrors long forgotten, of a family that had once called it home, a family with a darkness that had consumed them whole. As the lost travelers drifted into an uneasy slumber, the farmhouse exhaled a heavy sigh, its history intertwining with the present, and its secrets ready to be unraveled in the nights to come. Little did they know, their journey had only just begun, and the true horrors of the old farmhouse were yet to reveal themselves in all their chilling glory. As the first light of dawn pierced through the cracks in the farmhouse walls, The lost travelers stirred from their uneasy slumber. The events of the previous night seemed like distant echoes in their minds, and yet an unshakable sense of foreboding clung to them like a shroud. Gathering around a makeshift breakfast, the friends decided it was time to explore their surroundings in the daylight. They ventured outside, their steps cautious as they navigated through the overgrown foliage and crumbling outbuildings surrounding the farmhouse. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She scanned the woods, her eyes darting between the twisted branches and tangled undergrowth. The forest seemed to hold its breath, concealing the secrets of the past like a silent witness to the horrors that had unfolded on this secluded farm. As they explored, they stumbled upon old, rusted tools and broken remnants of what might have once been a family's livelihood. But the most chilling discovery came when Mark uncovered a hidden cellar door concealed beneath a pile of leaves. "Look what I found," he called out, his voice echoing with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. They gathered around the door, their breaths hitched in anticipation. Emily's heart pounded in her chest, her curiosity warring with her fear. Sarah hesitated, her intuition warning her to stay away, but the allure of unraveling the mysteries proved too strong. With trembling hands, Mark pushed open the cellar door, revealing a dark and narrow staircase leading into the depths below. The air that wafted from within was thick with must and decay, and an ominous feeling filled the space around them. "Should we go down there?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. David, ever the thrill-seeker, took a bold step forward. "What's the worst that could happen? It's just an old cellar." Despite her reservations, Sarah followed suit, and Emily, not wanting to be left alone, reluctantly descended the staircase with the others. As they made their way down, the darkness seemed to envelop them, making it difficult to discern the shape of the cellar's interior. The faint glow of their flashlights danced on the walls, casting eerie shadows that appeared to move with a life of their own. The first thing that caught their attention was an array of unsettling drawings and symbols etched into the walls. Crude depictions of grotesque creatures and nightmarish scenes. The drawings seemed to pulse with malevolence, as if they were imbued with the darkness of the past. "What on earth is this place?" Emily whispered, her voice quivering. Their exploration led them deeper into the cellar, where they came across an old, dusty journal hidden beneath a pile of decaying cloth. As Sarah picked it up, she noticed the words "Family Secrets" scrawled across the cover in faded ink. Curiosity getting the better of them, the friends gathered around as Sarah began to read aloud. The journal chronicled the life of a seemingly ordinary family that had once lived on the farm. But as they delved further into its pages, they discovered the true horrors that lay beneath the surface. The journal spoke of a family driven by a perverse hunger for human flesh, a family of cannibals that had lured unsuspecting travelers to their doom. The disturbing entries detailed the twisted rituals, the ghastly feasts, and the unspeakable acts committed by the depraved clan. "Are you saying there were cannibals living here?" Mark asked, his disbelief mirrored in the eyes of his friends. "It looks like it," Sarah replied, her voice tinged with horror. "And it seems they were never caught." The more they read, the more the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. The mysterious disappearances in the area, the chilling tales whispered among locals, and the aura of malevolence that clung to the old farmhouse, all pointed to the dark secrets of its past. As they continued to explore, they stumbled upon a hidden chamber, its entrance concealed behind a crumbling brick wall. Inside, they found a gruesome tableau, human bones scattered across the floor, a collection of personal belongings taken from the victims, and chilling symbols etched into the walls. Fear and revulsion gripped them, and they knew they had to leave the cellar before it consumed them completely. Climbing back up the narrow staircase, they emerged into the daylight, their minds reeling from the horrors they had uncovered. "We need to leave this place," Emily said, her voice tinged with urgency. David nodded, his face pale. "Agreed. This farm is cursed, and I want nothing to do with it." Mark took a final glance back at the farmhouse, his mind haunted by the darkness that had festered within its walls for years. "Let's go, and let's make sure no one else stumbles upon this place." The lost travelers returned to their path, the weight of the farmhouse's dark secrets heavy on their hearts. They no longer saw their weekend escape as a thrilling adventure, but as a haunting nightmare that they could never escape. As they walked away from the forsaken farm, little did they know that the shadows they had awakened were far from dormant. The malevolent family of cannibals still lurked in the depths of the forest, their hunger unquenchable, and their thirst for blood still very much alive. The once tranquil forest had transformed into a labyrinth of fear, each rustling leaf and distant whisper carrying with it the specter of dread. The lost traveler's sense of urgency had escalated into sheer panic as the realization of their predicament took hold. They were not alone on the forsaken farm. Every shadow seemed to hold a hidden threat, every sound an echo of danger. Emily's heart raced as she cast furtive glances around, her mind plagued by the grotesque images they had uncovered in the cellar. The group moved in tense silence, their senses on high alert. "We can't stay here. We need to find a way out," Mark whispered, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. They set off through the woods, the dense undergrowth clawing at their clothes, and the chilling wind seeming to carry the whispers of their pursuers. It wasn't long before the unmistakable sound of footsteps reached their ears, followed by guttural laughter that sent shivers down their spines. "They're hunting us," David hissed, his face pale beneath his sweat-slicked hair. The group quickened their pace, their desperate flight guided only by the instinct to survive. Emily's heart pounded in her chest, and every rustle of leaves seemed to send her pulse into a frenzy. Sarah stumbled, her ankle twisting painfully beneath her, and the friends paused momentarily to help her to her feet. "We can't keep running blindly," Emily panted. "We need a plan." Mark scanned their surroundings, his eyes narrowing as he spotted an abandoned hunting blind nestled among the trees. "There, the hunting blind. If we can make it there, we might be able to defend ourselves." With renewed determination, they pushed forward, each step a battle against the suffocating fear that threatened to consume them. The hunting blind came into view, its weathered wood offering a sliver of refuge in the midst of the encroaching nightmare. As they huddled inside the blind, their breaths ragged and their hearts pounding, they knew that their fight for survival had only just begun. The canopy of trees seemed to close in around them, casting the forest into an ominous twilight. Time seemed to stretch, each passing moment weighed down by the knowledge that their pursuers were out there, lurking in the shadows. "We need weapons," David said, his voice resolute. "Anything we can find to defend ourselves." They scoured the hunting blind, gathering rusted tools, broken branches, and whatever makeshift weapons they could find. The air was thick with tension, and the distant echoes of their pursuers' laughter seemed to seep into their very souls. Hours passed, the sun sinking beneath the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the forest. The friends knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. They needed to make a stand, to fight back against the horrors that threatened to consume them. As the moon rose, bathing the forest in a pale, otherworldly light, the sound of footsteps drew nearer. The friends braced themselves, their weapons at the ready, their hearts pounding in unison. A figure emerged from the shadows, one of the cannibal family, a deranged grin etched across his face. Without hesitation, they lunged at him, their makeshift weapons striking with a desperate ferocity. But their attacker was relentless, his strength and savagery fueled by a hunger that transcended reason. It was a deadly dance of survival, the clang of metal against flesh echoing through the night. In the midst of the chaos, a chilling scream pierced the air. They turned to see Sarah, her eyes wide with terror, ensnared in a trap set by their pursuers. Before they could reach her, she was yanked into the darkness, her voice fading into the night. "No," Emily cried out, her heart breaking as her friend disappeared. Their brief respite shattered. The friends were once again consumed by a desperate need to escape. They fought with a newfound fervor, their determination hardened by loss. The forest seemed to close in around them, a malevolent force that sought to claim them as it had claimed others before. As the night wore on, their pursuers seemed to multiply, closing in on them from all sides. The friends fought valiantly, each strike fueled by a desire to survive. But the odds were stacked against them. Their energy waned, their bodies battered and bruised. With one final, desperate push, they managed to break through the ring of their attackers and stumbled back toward the farmhouse. Their breaths came in ragged gasps, their bodies pushed to the brink of exhaustion. The farmhouse loomed ahead, a beacon of refuge amidst the surrounding darkness. But as they reached the decaying threshold, they realized that their ordeal was far from over. The cannibal family had cornered them, their eyes gleaming with a sinister hunger that mirrored the darkness within their souls. Emily, Mark, and David shared a glance, a silent understanding that they were facing their final stand. They raised their weapons, their resolve unwavering, and as the first attacker lunged, a cacophony of screams and clashes erupted in a symphony of horror. As the first rays of morning light seeped through the cracks in the decaying farmhouse, Emily, Mark, and David found themselves trapped in a nightmarish reality. The horrors they had faced during the long, terrifying night were not a fleeting dream, but a chilling truth they could no longer escape. They were still surrounded by the cannibal family that called this forsaken farm their home. Their breaths came in ragged gasps as they took stock of their situation. The night had taken its toll on their bodies and minds, leaving them bruised, battered, and teetering on the edge of despair. Sarah's disappearance weighed heavily on their hearts, and they knew they couldn't afford to lose anyone else. "We have to find a way out of here," Mark whispered, his voice strained with exhaustion. Emily nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "We can't let them have us. We need to fight back and find a way to escape." David scanned their surroundings, his mind racing for a plan. "If we can reach the main road, we might be able to flag down a passing car for help." But before they could put their plan into action, a chilling laughter echoed through the farmhouse. The cannibal family had regrouped, their eyes gleaming with malice, and they advanced toward the trio with a predatory intent. The friends' hearts raced as they faced their tormentors, their makeshift weapons raised in a desperate attempt at defense. It was a battle of survival, a clash between the living and the deranged, a dance of life and death that seemed to stretch into eternity. In the midst of the chaos, Emily caught sight of an old, weathered photograph hanging crookedly on the wall. It depicted a seemingly ordinary family, the very same people who had morphed into monsters and now threatened their lives. "I think I know how to stop them," Emily gasped, a revelation sparking in her mind. With newfound determination, she ripped the photograph from the wall, holding it before her like a talisman. "They were once a family like us. They can be stopped." The cannibal family hesitated, their laughter faltering as if the remnants of their humanity stirred within them. But their hunger prevailed, and with a blood-curdling shriek, they lunged forward. As Emily, Mark, and David fought with renewed vigor, they used every trick, every ounce of strength to stall their attackers. Emily held the photograph aloft, attempting to invoke the memory of the family they once were, but the darkness seemed to have consumed them too deeply. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a gunshot rang out, the deafening blast echoing through the farmhouse. One of the cannibals crumpled to the floor, lifeless. The friends turned to see a mysterious figure emerging from the shadows, a hunter who had heard the commotion and had come to investigate. "Get out of here! I'll hold them off!" the hunter shouted, brandishing a shotgun. Without a moment's hesitation, Emily, Mark, and David seized the opportunity and darted toward the exit. The hunter's gunfire provided them with a temporary reprieve as they burst out of the farmhouse and into the fading darkness. As they ran through the forest, their hearts pounded in unison with their footsteps. The sun was beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the horizon. It was the final dawn, their last chance to escape the clutches of the cannibal family. Through the tangled undergrowth, they stumbled, their bodies fueled by adrenaline and sheer willpower. But the cannibals were relentless in their pursuit, closing in on them with a ferocity that seemed to defy reason. Just when it seemed like they would be caught, the sound of sirens pierced the air. The friends emerged from the forest to find a team of police officers and paramedics waiting for them, alerted by the hunter who had come to their aid. The cannibal family was driven back into the darkness, their twisted reign of terror finally halted. As the sun climbed higher into the sky, the farm was swarmed by law enforcement, uncovering the gruesome truth hidden within its walls. The lost travelers were rushed to safety, their harrowing tale becoming the stuff of legends. But their ordeal was far from over, as the horrors they had faced that night would forever haunt their dreams. As they stood together, watching the farmhouse being cordoned off, they knew they had survived a night of unimaginable terror. But they also knew that the darkness they had encountered would forever linger, a shadow that could never be fully banished. In the aftermath of their ordeal, the bond between Emily, Mark, and David grew stronger. They sought comfort in each other's presence, knowing that they were the only ones who truly understood the horrors they had faced. They would forever carry the weight of that night, a reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that could lurk within even the most unassuming of places. And as they looked toward the rising sun, they found solace in the hope that daylight would forever keep the shadows at bay. The farmhouse, once a haven for unspeakable evil, would stand as a grim monument to the terrors that had unfolded within its walls. But in the end, it was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the will to survive, and the courage to face the darkness and emerge into the light. And so, as the lost travelers walked away from the forsaken farm, they knew that they had not only escaped the clutches of death, but had also forged a bond that would endure the trials of time. A bond born in the crucible of horror and united by the resilience of the human heart.